Oh hey, it's that time of the year again, 8 p.m. For this special occasion, I want to talk about one of my childhood treasures, most notably, one of the most popular horror video game franchises of all time. Five Nights at Freddy's. That's such a long title for a video game. Five Nights at Freddy's, or FNAF in short, took the world by storm in the year 2014. 2014 was a great time for a 6-year-old me, basically the pinnacle of my childhood. I had a lot of great memories during this time. Before the FNAF craze, I remember hopping on YouTube and watching gameplays of Happy Wheels, Slenderman, and Minecraft. Then this came and it changed everything. I also remember watching and listening to fan-made music videos, especially by The Games and The Living Tombstone. Yep, here's the list of my favorite music genres. So much FNAF stuff happened here and there. The community is massive, and by that, take a look at this graph. Say what you will about the franchise, it has a lot of impact on the horror video game genre. So let's take a look at each entry of the franchise and try to criticize what made these games good and why some of them are my least favorite. We'll be taking a look at the mainline entries first, then the spin-offs. Now, before we begin, I want to say that I won't be delving into the entirety of the series' lore. It's mainly because there are still a ton of mysteries left unsolved, and the lore itself is complex, especially to newcomers. So we'll only be taking a look at how each game looks and how they play. First up on Five Nights at Freddy's. Five Nights at Freddy's. So here's the core gameplay. You are in an office and it is your job to make sure that the animatronics are in their area. Oh no. You have to use the cameras to figure out their location. You can't move anywhere, so in order to survive, you can shut the doors on both sides of your office. Beware of the power, as the more you use it, the faster it depletes. Once it depletes, it's game over. Unless you have to make it to 6 a.m. Once you do, it's on to the next night. And you have to do this for a total of 5 nights. It gradually gets harder with each one. There are 2 other secret nights. Night 6 you can unlock by just beating the previous 5 nights, and the custom night that you can unlock by beating night 6. The custom night allows you to customize the difficulty for each animatronic. For each animatronic, we have Freddy, Golden Freddy, Bonnie, Chica, and Foxy. Bonnie and Chica can be easily found, while Freddy can only appear in very few areas. Foxy stays in one location and you have to keep an eye on him, as he will charge to your left door. Once he is doing that, quickly shut the left door until he is gone. But what about jump scares? This game has one of the best jump scares in the series, as they look really real. The ambiance and the audio cues are really well put out, especially if you're playing the game with headphones on. This is also one of the hardest entries in the franchise, for me. From my experience back when I was 6 years old, I was able to breeze through the first 3 nights in one go. Night 4 was the worst one, possibly even worse than the last night. Beating this game for the first time was so rewarding that I forgot there were 2 more nights that I have to finish, and from that moment forward, I never played the game again for a few weeks. What I think made this game so great gameplay-wise is the power supply mechanic. It's the only entry with this mechanic. Sure, FNAF 2 has that, but I don't think it leaves much impact compared to the first game. With this mechanic, a lot more strategy is required to complete a single night. Playing with headphones on helps, since you can hear audio cues that determine whether that specific animatronic is in that area. But wearing headphones on can also make the jump scares leave much more impact. So that's the first FNAF game, 9 out of 10. Great design, great gameplay, and great jump scares. Next is FNAF 2. This game has some new changes compared to the last. You can toggle your flashlight on your cameras and the vents. There are no more doors that you can shut, so you're much more vulnerable. The only thing in your arsenal is the flashlight and the spare Freddy mask. This mask is used to fool any animatronic into believing that the player is an animatronic themselves. Speaking of animatronics, there are too damn many of them here. We got Toy Freddy, Bonnie and Chica, Withered Freddy, Bonnie, Chica, Foxy, Mangle, and the Puppet. Oh, you also can't forget Withered Golden Freddy and Balloon Boy. Jesus, that's 11 animatronics. The puppet is the most interesting of the bunch. We have this jukebox that we need to keep playing. If we don't, then game over. Then we have Balloon Boy who steals your torch's batteries and has this annoying laugh. And let me tell you, this game is tough. Since there is no animatronics you need to keep track of, in addition to the flashlight's batteries and the puppet's jukebox, this game is much more intense and fast-paced. This game is Ultimate Custom Night before Ultimate Custom Light is released. Now, looking at this game from the outside, it's much more lively, and that perfectly sets with the sheer difficulty of this game. As for the jump scares, they look a bit cheap compared to the first game. They are scary, no doubt, but they just feel a bit cartoonish to me sometimes. Sometimes after you got jump scared, a little minigame pops out that has something to do with the story. After that, another jump scare. 6 out of 10. Looks okay. Incredibly difficult. Moving on. FNAF 3. So this is what Greenland looks like. Why is everything green? I know that we are in an abandoned pizzeria, but at least make things look a bit more dusty and abandoned, not a science lab. So here's the gameplay. When you look left, you can access the settings. Here you can repair the ventilation, the audio, all that stuff. On the right, you can access the cameras. You can toggle between the main cameras and the vent cameras. We only have one animatronic that we need to be aware of. Springtrap. For the other animatronics, we have Phantom Freddy, Watermelon, Foxy, Balloon Boy, Mangle, and the Puppet. The Phantoms don't do anything serious, but they can mess you up. They just jump scare you, peace out, and you have to repair the vents. The Phantoms appear in specific locations. Figure out where they are and you'll get immediately jump scared. Springtrap appears often either on the vents or in the pizzeria itself. You can use the audio button to bait Springtrap into that specific location. There is no power supply here, the ambience and the audio cues aren't really something to write home about. The jump scares have the right balance of scariness, especially for the Phantoms, but Springtrap's jump scares, they're not great. He's not even trying to scare you, he's just like, how you doing? 6 out of 10. Easy, doesn't look great, moving on. FNAF 4. This game is set in a bedroom, the one place we're all familiar with. We're playing as a little child and we're gonna defend ourselves against the nightmares. There are no ways to defend yourself. Just like the third game, you have infinite batteries for a flashlight. Elon Musk should make one of those. You can open and close the doors once you go near them. Here you can also toggle your flashlight if the animatronics are there or not. You also have the closet and you can pretty much do the same things you can do with the door. Then we have the bed and all we can do is just point our flashlight. In this game, you're gonna rely heavily on the audio. There are very few visual cues that determine the location of an animatronic. Speaking of which, we got Nightmare Freddy, Bonnie, Chica, Foxy, Fredbear, Mango, Balloon Boy, Plush Trap, Nightmarion, and Nightmare. There are also Halloween-themed designs for some of them. Their jump scares are some of the best, and probably the most scariest. They nailed the ambiance with this game. It really feels like we're living our childhood nightmares, which is what I'm doing right now. 9 out of 10, great jump scares, and great design. Next we have FNAF 5, or Sister Location. This game compared to the others has a lot more narrative. Each night you are given different tasks and you gotta survive through each one of them. And may I introduce the best part of the game.
Please enter your name as seen above the keypad. This cannot be changed later. It seems that you had some trouble with the keypad. I see what you were trying to type, and I will auto-correct it for you. One moment. Welcome, Eggs Benedict.
The first night is pretty much charity, but the following nights, oh, you're gonna die. For the animatronics, we have Funtime Freddy, Foxy, Ballerina, Circus Baby, and Ennard. These animatronics are more futuristic-like. Their jump scares are great, especially the ones where they reveal the insides of their face. I like that this game doesn't use the standard format of the other games, where you're just in a fixed location and you gotta survive by whatever means necessary. No, in this game, you are assigned to complete different objectives in different locations. And that's what made this game really unique. The game does have that format after you beat the main game and is considered its own custom night. You gotta rely on the audio for some scenarios in the game, other times it's just spamming your left mouse button or dragging your mouse intensely. That's pretty much all I can say about this game without bringing in the story, so 9 out of 10. Great narrative, jump scares, the rest. Finally, we have FNAF 6, or Pizzeria Simulator. On the outside, looks like an FNAF spin-off game, but then this happened. Great. So, I am an owner of a pizzeria and it is my responsibility to decorate stuff, hope that I don't get a lawsuit, and attract customers. After the work is done, the work isn't done. So we're back in the standard FNAF gameplay. This time we gotta finish up our chores. You can upgrade stuff so that some things can be more efficient if you have enough money. On your left and right side there are vents. There are no ways to protect yourselves from animatronics. Just like FNAF 4, you will heavily rely on the audio. There's also this map on the screen where you can toggle audio on specific locations. You can also control the temperature of the room and the fans. Some of the chores that you gotta do make some noise so it can attract the animatronics. For the animatronics, we got Scrap Baby, Lefty, Molten Freddy, and Chip from Chip and Dale. Let me just sink this one in. Why does Springtrap look like he's from an animated zombie movie? Besides all that, you can also play minigames with the items that you bought. There are secrets that you can access by playing some of them. What makes me love this game is the ending. It's just so cool and epic. This game is the perfect end for the franchise. 10 out of 10, lots of great content, great design, jump scares and all. It's great. Oh, you exist. Five Nights at Freddy's Security Breach, the first game in the franchise to have this one massive map. I think it looks cool with all the 80s retro stuff, but it doesn't make anything scary. Just a note, I haven't bought this game so I didn't play it, but I have seen videos about this game, so all of what I am about to say is all of what I can talk about on the outside. The overall design for each character makes this game feel like it's targeted towards younger audiences, when FNAF is known for being gruesome and dark. What about the gameplay? Well, now we can move around in a first-person perspective. We can also enter Glamrock Freddy. Moving around depletes his battery and there are dozens of charging stations for Freddy that are scattered throughout the whole map. There are these robots that are either janitors or guards. If they catch sight of you, they'll alert the nearby animatronics trying to get you. For the animatronics, we have Glamrock Freddy, Chica, Roxanne Wolf, Montgomery Gator, the daycare attendant, DJ Music Man, and...
Hi, please take this map. Take a map. Thank you. Please enjoy.
The jump scares aren't great, but they're not bad too. We also got a human night guard. Nothing special, but she just has the funniest jump scare of any horror game. Also, she's trying to get you, but rarely do you ever see her. Just like Pizzeria Simulator, there are also a few minigames that you can play, and just like that game, there are Easter eggs that you can access by playing some of them. I'm gonna let this rant in here. Why is Springtrap in the game? He died in the last game. Why is he here? Why do some of the endings have fully animated cutscenes but some of the endings are in a comic book format? Why did the game come out in such a buggy state? Why does this game exist? I know FNAF is one of those franchises that a lot of fans want to continue, especially for me, but the people who came up with this game need to respect the timeline and the entire story of the games. I'm gonna give this game a 7 out of 10. A bit scary, looks a bit challenging, the overall design of the map and the characters just doesn't fit well for a horror game. Now to the spin-offs. The first one, FNAF World. This is an RPG take on the franchise, containing characters from the first game to FNAF 4, alongside some characters that never appeared in these games. You take control of Freddy and explore the world. Just like any other turn-based RPG, enemies appear randomly. You can use up to 8 animatronics split into 2 groups of 4. You can unlock new animatronics by simply facing them. There are also bosses. That's it. You can buy upgrades and items that can help you. There are multiple areas, each correlating with a specific theme. Just like Pizzeria Simulator, there are a bunch of minigames included. There are a ton of Easter eggs that you can access here and there within these. And while you think that this game is an RPG, there are still jump scares in here. It is a Five Nights at Freddy's game after all. 8 out of 10, a lot of content, not a great RPG, but not a bad one. Lastly, we have Ultimate Custom Night. While I consider this game a spin-off, there are scenarios in the game that deals with the main story of the series, and some are just plain weird. As the title implies, this game is solely one giant custom night. You got all the animatronics from the first game to Pizzeria Simulator, and let me tell you, this is definitely one of the hardest games in the series. The hardest one yet. You have a lot more gameplay mechanics, which means you have a lot more responsibility. If you're gonna play this game for the first time, just start off with a low level of difficulty and a few number of animatronics. It's also gonna take a lot of time to figure out the controls, which are really vital since this game is really fast paced. 8 out of 10, sheer insanity, great jump scares, not much content, but you know. So that's the entirety of the FNAF franchise. I definitely missed the old days, back when fan music videos and short animated films were quite popular. Now I just kind of think that the franchise is slowly losing identity. Not because they keep making bad games back to back, or they're not doing anything original. It's just because they don't have the same flair as they did back when they were starting out. It's nice to look back on this series. It's definitely one of my childhood classics. Might want to talk about that soon.
Oh hey, I normally don't dress up for special occasions unless I'm playing LEGO Marvel Superheroes, but I'm switching things up right now. This time I wore a purple shirt just to signify I don't know how to flirt.
It has now been 10 years since the release of the one thing why I like animals. Fuck beta. It's been a while since I played any game from the FNAF series, and I needed something to strengthen my fear gauge, make myself less vulnerable to heart attacks.
Oh. Next time, try giving a damn more. Cool.
The last game I played in this series was Pizzeria Simulator. I played a little bit of Ultimate Custom Night, but I realized there's too much stuff happening in it. Some were good, and others were questionable. Even to this day, I still haven't played Security Breach. I'm sure all the bugs are fixed by now, and that the game is running smoothly enough that I can
do what you want, 'cause a pirate is free. You are a pirate. Yar, har, fiddle indeed. Being a pirate is a right indeed. Do what you want, 'cause a pirate is free. You are a pirate.
But unfortunately, there are too many games in my backlog right now, and I'm pretty much all up to date when it comes to the storyline of Five Nights at Freddy's. I didn't play the VR games because I don't have a VR system. I didn't play the AR game because I don't play video games that much on my phone. So for a while, I kinda abandoned the playing FNAF lifestyle. And I did miss it. I played the original 6 games, beat the 6th and 7th nights of those games, except for FNAF 2. Night 7 there is too fucking impossible. And mostly achieved everything those games had to offer. And Five Nights at Freddy's was the only horror game franchise I played for a long time. The first one being Slender Man, and the most recent one being the remake of Resident Evil 4. To be clear, I'm not the biggest fan of horror games. If you look at things closely, horror games are quite simple, especially with their gameplay, but their scary factors definitely outshine most of their problems. No matter how much crap the Five Nights at series has gone through, I'm not playing Poppy Playtime. Ever. So all of that left me to play Monster Hunter World, replay my childhood games, play some of the hardest games of all time, and introduce myself to Dark Souls 3 all throughout the COVID pandemic. It was a fun time. Fun being lonely. I had a lot of fun catching up to some of the greatest games I've ever played, but I do feel myself getting pulled back to my roots, to the place where my enjoyment for video games began. And it did. Back on December 26, 2019, written by Ellie Cooper and the man himself, Scott Cawthon, the first volume of the Fazbear Frights book series was published under the title of Into the Pit. Now, prior to its release, there were already books and novels about Five Nights at Freddy's that had been published before, but Into the Pit is special because on January 22, 2024, a video game adaptation of the novel was leaked to be in development. Later that day, Scott Cawthon made a Reddit post acknowledging the leaks and stating that the game would release for the series' 10th anniversary on August 8th. A gameplay trailer was released on June 6th. The game will be the first installment of the series to be in full 2D and made with pixel art. Not much is shown in the trailer other than kids running around and screaming, Bonnie doing the floss, and young Kwebbelkop having the ability to travel back in time through a magic ball pit. Believe me when I say this is the least craziest sentence concerning Five Nights at Freddy's. You wouldn't believe the amount of crazy shit that happens here. Why didn't I heard about this game before? I just heard this game existed when it finally released. But when the game was released, I picked it up day one because I hadn't played a Five Nights at Freddy's game in a while, and I needed a resurgence. Since I haven't played a Five Nights at Freddy's game for more than 5 years, my memory of the lore is a bit janky, so I went into the pit knowing that a guy dressed in purple murdered a bunch of kids, and those kids took the revenge, but the purple guy has a bunch of relatives. Some continued the family murder legacy, while others tried stopping it. And there are a bunch of establishments made by the purple guy, and there are a bunch of rabid wild animatronics loose in those establishments, either continuing the family murder legacy or doing their own things, usually much worse than what the purple guy was doing before, but the purple guy somehow keeps coming back, and the cycle repeats.
That's not even everything.
So we play as a young kid named Oswald, and our dad brought us to a pizzeria because we're broke and for the most obvious reason,
Kids.
we eavesdrop on the table, hear that there's an abandoned ball pit in this pizzeria, and went inside the room with the ball pit so that we can teach our dad a lesson for bringing us to the same place over and over again.
You should do the same with school.
We jump into the pit and somehow travel back in time to when the pizzeria was much more lively. By that, I meant when everything went wrong. At least I got on treatment for playing with my balls. We entered the main show hall and... this is not the right time nor place to do that in front of a bunch of kids, Bonnie. We run into a bunch of kids named Chip and Mike. It is from then we can confirm that we traveled back to the 80s. Yep, this is definitely the place and time. Yin and Yang showed us around the pizzeria and cheated in an arcade game and in a game of tag. But we cheated back at him when we hid inside an animatronic suit.
That worked well last time.
The lights went out, we saw Spring Bonnie walk across the room, and we played a game called Hold Your Breath. It was a fun time. We returned to the main party hall, everyone is screaming, and oh, would you look at that? There are adults in this room, and they're just running out in panic. Why aren't they fighting back against my cunnilingus Shafton if that fucking suit can snap him inside by just pissing at him? Also, I'm assuming everything in the Five Nights at Freddy's series would happen in America, because why would there be a fucking Chuck E. Cheese outside the land of guns? Not one of these people brought a firearm. Where are the guards? Shouldn't this place have some fucking security? You know what? Screw this. I'm leaving. So that's the new Five Nights at Freddy's game. I mean, I technically beat it. Whatever, I'm jumping back into the pit. So that's one of the earliest ways you can get this game over with, and definitely one of the worst endings of the game. But that's not how you get the true Five Nights at Freddy's game experience. I pissed my pants several times while playing the original games. I should be doing the same. So we run around the pizzeria looking for Chip and Mike. We get an encounter from Spring Bonnie, gesturing us to come with him. We follow him into the room and see a bunch of dead corpses on the ground. We ran away from him and jumped back into the pit. Dad scolded us for hiding from him. Spring Bonnie tries to pull Dad into the pit, but we somehow have more strength than an adult inside a mechanical animatronic suit, so we pulled Dad back, and he is somewhat possessed by Spring Bonnie. He drives us home and... doesn't kill us? What? He has the perfect chance to do the most heinous things to a little kid, and he just decides to roam around the house like he just doesn't know that I know this place more than he does, granting me the perfect opportunity to escape from him. Huh? So we grabbed Mom's phone number, distracted Spring Bonnie from the parents' bedroom, and grabbed Dad's phone. I tried entering a number most FNAF fans would know, and it didn't do a damn thing. How? It was the most sensible thing to do, and I was punished for somehow alerting Spring Bonnie. But, as you can see, most of this game revolves around looking for clues and items hiding in various locations. Each location has a specific minigame where you try to hide from Spring Bonnie's vision, either swatting a bunch of bugs, moving to the side that's opposite to his sights, or flashing him. So we call Mom, she arrives, Dad enters the room, Mom doesn't notice his glowing eyes, we return back to our bedroom, we avoided Spring Bonnie and took the front door to leave the house. We return to Jeff's Pizza, we jump back into the pit, we find a kid crying inside an exoskeleton suit. I'm no doctor or shit, but looking at this kid, there's no way he's fucking alive. Dude's just a head in a cog machine. So we need a screwdriver to get him out. Sounds easy enough, right? Because we just have to take out the trash from Jeff since he has the keys to the backstage where the screwdriver is located. Why not just buy a screwdriver? They can't be that expensive. Also, I don't think a 10-year-old would be able to tell what kind of screwdriver he needs to unscrew the mechanism that's locking the kid inside. In fact, I don't think he would even know how the exoskeleton suit works. Weren't those animatronic things invented by the guy who started all of this mess, thus making them complicated for a kid to understand? Now that I'm thinking about it, all of this takes place in the 80s, so the exoskeleton suit wouldn't probably be that complicated and the screws might be common and easily seen on the surface. Why am I focusing so much on this one thing? We head back into the pit, we free the kid, Spring Bonnie chased us, we escape and return back home to end the night. Mom is still oblivious to the fact that a guy in a yellow bunny suit is sitting at a dinner table. We head to school, we witness an average American playtime. As we left the school, we witness another traditional American playtime, this time with an immigrant named Gabrielle. We became friends, she gave us her grandpa's sketchbook, which coincidentally happened to contain detailed explanations as to how the animatronics worked. We escaped the house through a window, we returned to Jeff's Pizza. As soon as we jumped back into the pit, the lights went out. This is a thing that happens whenever you travel back to this place. It doesn't happen most of the time, but when it does, you are forced to use your flashlight, which is so power consuming that it can drain a single battery for around a single minute. How does that even work? We switched the generator on, the lights went on again, we get caught by Spring Bonnie, we escape, they pry one of the vents open which leads us to the storage. We hear some crying along the hallway, we got chased by Chica, she grabs our food. Before returning back to get some more food, we got caught by Spring Bonnie and... Yeah, I get it, buddy, your breath stinks. Can you let me go now? So we return to the present, and our task is to get a single slice of pizza. Sounds simple, right? Well, all we have to do is to find a rat trap at the mill, jump back into the pit, catch a rat, return to the present time again, and release that rat in front of a local customer so that it distracts Jeff, and we sneak into the kitchen to get a slice of pizza. All of that because we don't even have the option to just buy a fucking slice of pizza. I know Oswald's family is struggling, but this takes place in the 80s. One slice of pizza shouldn't be that expensive. Whatever, we jump back into the pit. We place the pizza slice at Chica's nest to lure her in. We sneak into the employee's room. We find Mike hiding in the cabinet. We head to the entrance. Mike tells us that Chip might be in the arcade. Spring Bonnie chases us again. We return back home. We wake up the next day to find that the window is now barred. This is something Spring Bonnie does every day. He blocks up your previous exits so you're forced to find other ways to leave the house. This also encourages you to explore more of the house, get to know the best routes whenever you're being chased, the best hiding spots, and maybe find some useful items like batteries. We returned to the school, we got bullied. While we were taking a class, we hallucinated and saw some animatronics. We got another little side quest. Grab our teacher's book in the principal's office. To do that, we must find the keys to the office, search all the available rooms, and return back the book. This really feels like Pajama Sam. We head back home, we try the front door only to find out it was now locked. I tried moving the ladder from the attic to the basement, but I got caught in the hallway and somehow the ladder disappeared. Okay. I went to the attic to see if the ladder was there, but it wasn't. But I found some rope, which I used to escape through the attic window. We jumped back into the pit. We are supposed to get into the arcade, but all the entryways are locked. Apparently the keys to the arcade are in a vent, and it took an embarrassing amount of time looking around the entire pizzeria and every nook and cranny for me to find a shiny object up there. This really is Pajama Sam. We get the keys, we open the arcade, Bonnie chases us down and blocks up the arcade. Looking at the old sketchbook, Bonnie's electric guitar seems to be the perfect way to distract him from the arcade. We find the guitar backstage, only to find it to be missing a string. Now, seeing that there are a lot of spare parts of the animatronics backstage, the missing electric guitar string should be around here, right? Well, Oswald thinks that we can find the missing string in the garbage, so we head back to the mill, and guess what? Because of some strange coincidence, there happened to be a guitar string we're looking for. What? This is Pajama Sam, what the hell? We got caught by Dylan, who somehow in the garbage took a photo of us collecting from the trash. We jumped back into the pit. We fixed Bonnie's guitar, played it on stage, grabbed Bonnie's attention away from the arcade. We sneak into the arcade, we find Chip getting bonked to death. We freed him, we got chased down by Freddy and Spring Bonnie, and we returned home. We went back to school, we got bullied once more by Dylan. I'm surprised he's not still out taking it a dump. Okay, bitch, you got to the garbage before me, asshole. Don't act like you were expecting me to come over there with your camera at the ready like you're Dick Tracy when you're just picturing your Dick Tracy in the worst possible place to take dick pics. Dylan. More like Disrespect Junior. You're pissing me off, fuck you. We return to the pizzeria. Now that the entrance to the arcade is open, you can gain access to a bunch of broken down arcade machines, which you can fix through several specific items. Yeah, I can wait for the whole saving my dad from a sentient killer animatronic shtick. I need to grind these minigames. This section is brought to you by my severe gambling addiction from playing too much blackjack and Fallout New Vegas. Depending on how much random stuff you collect throughout the entire game, the number of arcade machines you can repair can vary. However, most of these are quick and simple little games. Your reward for playing all of these games is tickets, which you can use to get a voucher. I never figured out how to get a voucher. It might need all of the arcade machines fixed or you have to play all of them, but I scoured through every possible location I could get to before jumping into the pit. But I couldn't find any more repair parts. Alright then, we have nothing left to do but jump back again into the pit. After following the scream and getting jumped by Spring Bonnie from out of nowhere, we find that Freddy is blocking the entrance to the security room. Now, we could just use our dad's phone and call someone so that when it rings loudly, Freddy can come out of the room, but no, that's a bit too clever to do. Sometimes they're just too smart for games. We escape the pizzeria, head back to the library, and meet the firecracker kid. We exchange the Freddy mask with the firecrackers, and at this point, we should just get a firearm. We already have a fire hazard, it wouldn't hurt a bit. And to those who are saying, actually, Oswald is just a kid, fuck you, this takes place in America. Anyone can have guns, even newborn infants. Also, why didn't the security guards from each entry in the franchise carry a handgun? What if someone broke into the place and stole a bunch of pizzas? What's the security guard gonna do, preserve electricity? One last thing, I don't care how bulky the animatronics are, but a few rounds would definitely shut them down well. Have you seen how fragile these things are built? Where was I? Before we could return to the pizzeria, our dad dragged us back home, so now we have only one option to get out of the house, through the basement. We first need to find the ladder located in the attic, and every step you take while carrying this thing causes a lot of noise, so getting into the basement can be quite tricky. Nonetheless, we escape our abusive stepdad, we return to the pizzeria, play a few more minigames, and jump back into the pit. We head back to the storage, lit the firecracker, distract Freddy, and sneak quietly into the room. We find a kid who's huddled up in a corner, the phone guy returns and does his usual stuff.
Now, I can't imagine that you'd stay there very late at night. So I guess you don't need to worry about the whole animatronic situation, blah, blah, blah. If you really have nothing to do after work and want to stay a little bit longer, play some games in the arcade. Not every machine works, though.
We check the cameras, Spring Bonnie is blocking the exit, we leave the room, boop, and return to the room, but the kid is missing. We look through the cameras, Spring Bonnie has the kid in another room, get the hammer from the arcade, stuck into the kitchen, and help the kid escape. Spring Bonnie catches us and we escape. We begin the next day by having another nightmare. We headed to Jeff's Pizza right away, but the door to the ball pit was blocked. We find Jeff playing solitaire and convince him to give us the keys. What the hell was the point of that? After that, Spring Bonnie somehow chases us all the way to the ball pit. We hide from Spring Bonnie and hear another child screaming, this time coming from the party room. The key card is found backstage, however the entrance there is blocked. We use the vents, enter the backstage, find the key card among the cluster of animatronic parts. We head back, open the party room, and find another kid. She told us that she heard our dad screaming through the vents. We get there, find our dad tied up in a chair, and try to get him out. When Spring Bonnie comes in and drags dad out of the room, we chase him down to the ball pit. We escaped, but Spring Bonnie dragged us back, and now we are the ones trapped. That is a suspicious looking angle.
So that's into the pit, but Is that everything the game has to offer? Well, so far I only got 2 of the endings, both of which aren't the best. One of the better endings requires you to get all of Dad's items, which shows you a scene where Oswald and his dad reunite safely. Another requires you to fix all of the arcade machines and play 3 secret minigames, showing you a scene of the entire family enjoying their time together in a brand new and renovated version of Jeff's Pizza, which is actually the true ending of the game. The last ending happens if you fail the quick time event on the final night, where you become one of the animatronics. Obviously, the ending where the entire family is together is my favorite, but the other endings are alright. As for the entire story, it's alright. I haven't read the novel, so I couldn't really compare or say much about how well the story is adapted into the game. The story is pretty simple, it's not as deep or complex as the other games, since I know that Into the Pit is not entirely canon to the FNAF lore. This, I like. For someone who hasn't played FNAF or has been keeping up to date on the timeline, it's nice to have a game that's not too complex in terms of story. What I don't like is how you are forced to do some side quests while you're trying to do the main story. These aren't your traditional side quests. In this game, they only exist just so the gameplay can be a bit longer. I don't really like that when it happens in video games. The way it is done here feels like annoying little tangents, and they don't even add anything to the actual story of the game, so it just makes it feel more useless. Again, I didn't read the novel, but I feel like if some of the side characters, like the kids you meet at school, were somewhat more involved in the story, I think the story could be a bit better. Gabrielle, the girl who gave us her grandpa's journal, I feel could have helped Oswald in his search for his dad, although Oswald probably wouldn't do that. What I'm just saying here is that a few characters' involvement in the story could help bring things to life a little. The gameplay is not much to note, it's just your simple 2D puzzle game. I do love the art style though, I think this is what Security Breach should have been. That's not to say that Security Breach, breaking the traditional boundaries of FNAF by being an open 3D, is terrible. I love how the gameplay in Security Breach looks. It doesn't feel too alienated from the traditional FNAF gameplay. I just think that the art style feels a bit too cartoonish at times, which is off-putting for me since I believe that FNAF shines the best when it's bloody and disgusting. In this game, however, the art style is intentional. It's supposed to replicate how the novel looked, and I respect that. I love this game. I just don't think it's better than the original 7 games. I'd say it's on par with FNAF World, although FNAF World has more content, but I still love Into the Pit. It's definitely better than what most AAA video game companies are releasing this year. Well, I can officially say that this is one of the better Halloweens I've had in a while. But Halloween involves trick-or-treating, and trick-or-treating involves candies. And I still haven't had any candies.
Police! Oh no, it's the Pulis.